Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Gyeongju. It is a beautiful dawn here in the historic capital of the Shilla Kingdom. I know this was supposed to be a nighttime tour, but jet lag meant I slept through the 8 p.m. nighttime tour. So you're getting a dawn tour. So here is the beautiful bed and breakfast where we stayed just outside the main historic center. And by just outside, I mean a minute walk area. And you're going to get to see it yourself. I'm being quiet. Guests are still coming. But we're now going to head out and I will talk about Hanok Airbnb options when you're here. So let's go. Good morning, dear viewer. Good afternoon. Good evening. Right. So here we are in what used to actually be a series of shrine complexes just outside of the historic capital of Gyeongju. It became rice paddies with rice farms and sort of a little farming village. And recently, many of the people who used to do rice farming have passed on, and their heirs have turned the rice paddies into these amazing Airbnb complexes. These beautiful traditional architecture style hanok. And they are basically timber frame and wattle and daub. You know, it's a architectural style that kind of has been parallelly developed across the world at various places. Because if you have trees and you have mud, then it makes sense. It is persimmon season, so the persimmon trees are absolutely laden, and you kind of have to watch where you're walking because you might end up stepping in something that's very slick and dangerous, and potentially smelly if it's been rotting. Good morning, Susan. Good afternoon. Oh, you are. Good evening. You're in the UK, I think. This is someone's house, by the way. They just live here. This is not a bed and breakfast. This is my dream home right here. I thought when I moved to Korea that I'd be living in a place like this. The very first time we came here, I was mistaken. Homes like this are multi-million-dollar properties. Here are rice paddies. You can actually see what a real rice paddy looks like, although it's a little underdeveloped. It should actually be ready for this is harvest season, so I don't know what happened to their rice. It has been weird. Yeah, actually I was just wondering, they might have actually been able to get in a second growing season. It's been so warm here. You can maybe hear the roosters crowing. They've been going for a little while. Yeah, like this rice, this has been harvested. It's ready for treatment. But yeah, these, I think you're right. I think they got a second growth out of the paddies. Well, welcome to the new age. Good morning. If you're enjoying this, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And if you have questions, of course, do pop them in the live chat and I will absolutely respond. I apologize for any sniffing. I'm not sick. It's just that it's very misty and cold and that makes my nose run for whatever reason. So we're coming out here to a stream that delineated the historical capital of Gyeongju. And historically it was either called Sorabol, the historical capital of Shilla, which was called Sorabol or Kumsong. Kumsong actually means Citadel of Gold because the Shilla Empire, the Shilla Kingdom was known for its gold wares and its aristocracy and its royalty. Whenever there was any kind of ceremonial public function, were decked out to the nines in all sorts of gold regalia. And that was a reputation this place had throughout Asia, apparently.
Looks like they did the planting again for
the
trail.
You can see, I don't know how well they can see, but there's a beautiful white crane over there, and they can't see the crane. Oh, too bad.
I know where it is, and I can't see it.
Oh well. It's flying. It's flying.
There's the crane.
Beautiful white crane.
And it stopped.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty large one.
4 people.
So it's a very misty dawn morning here. Unfortunately, I apologize. We were supposed to do a nighttime tour, but at 8 p.m. my time last night, I was passed out. Jet lag going from the US to Korea is pretty gruesome because you literally have to make a 180-degree time flip, and human bodies don't work that way. for those who don't know, your body actually naturally adjusts an hour a day. So you can do all sorts of tricks to force yourself, but it's not, yeah, at least for me especially, I've never been good at overcoming jet lag, which is really wretched since I love to travel long distances. And I travel a lot, so I guess I end up just being chronically sleep deprived. Oh, here's a crane. So beautiful.
Going to join its friend.
Or not. Or going to alarm its friend. Oh, I guess this, I think, dear viewer, I think we are witnessing the crane commuting hour. The cranes are coming to the office for a day. Yeah, that's why I said there were 3 up there just now, coming in for a day of hard fishing in the creek. So, you know, it's the story of Gyeongju, as it's called now, and how it has sort of slowly been restored to its historical state is interesting, as is the case with most historic cities. You know, it's waxed and it's waned, and it went from being one of the most powerful capitals in Asia and richest capitals in Asia to being a podunk, you know, unimportant village, basically. And, you know, that's because the Shilla kingdom came to power, or the Shilla dynasty came to power. They conquered all the little neighboring kingdoms around them, created unified Shilla, which basically spanned from Busan up to what is now the Chinese border, and actually beyond into Manchuria. And then, of course, eventually another kingdom rose up. That would be the Goryeo dynasty, and they conquered Shilla, and they moved the capital to a new place, because it is never smart to leave your capital, or when you conquer, advice to those who wish to conquer kingdoms and take power, never ever leave your capital where it was before, because you actually want to create a new aristocracy who are your aristocracy, and basically disenfranchise the old aristocracy.
You can almost see it coming through the fog.
Yeah, so we're heading towards one of the most beautiful bridges in the world, hands down. I will fight you if you argue with me on this. This is a replica of a 7th century bridge that used to span exactly this spot, and they performed archaeological surveys on this site, and submarine surveys too, because this is a creek, and found all sorts of remnants of this bridge, and have spent 4 years reconstructing it, 4 or 5 years reconstructing it, using historical techniques, historical methods, iconography of other such bridges in other places in the Shilla dynasty.
And written testimony.
Yeah, and written testimony about the bridge. You know, it's, as a living historian, it's just fantastic when you can combine the iconographic record with the documentary evidence with the archaeological evidence. It's like the geek trinity of joy, really. And as in many cases, in Korea, the bridge is free. You just get to go and enjoy its beauty for free. You don't have to pay for entry. The bridge does close down though, so I'm hoping it's open. Yeah.
How much of the Shilla has been discovered in the area?
How much of Shila's what?
Been discovered in the area?
Oh goodness. So Gyeongju has about, thus far, they have identified 155, actually probably more by now, at least 155 hill tombs, which if you kind of fly over Gyeongju, it would look like the earth has an outbreak of green pimples. But those are just the tombs, of course. Basically half of this city is under excavation at any given time, because there are so many complexes that were apparently, so what really made the city stop being important wasn't so much that the capital moved, but the Mongols came in during the Goryeo dynasty and burnt everything to the ground as a statement piece. So they are excavating what were once magnificent Buddhist temple complexes, palace complexes, manor house belonging to the aristocrats, even you know, more workaday homesteads. So they've actually uncovered quite a bit. The museums in Korea are filled with Shilla dynasty artifacts, and in fact, you can literally go to antique stores here. And I use the word antique here very loosely because at a certain point I feel like it stops being an antique and starts being an antiquity. But anyway, you can go to antique stores here and buy genuine grave goods from the Sheila era. Oh, look at the sunrise coming up over. I don't
see it peeking.
Yeah, so the sun, you're actually getting a proper sunrise walk, everyone. You can thank my jet lag for this. I'm not normally mobile at this time of day. It's not so much that I can't be, but I usually just stay up late and then I need 8 hours of sleep. But thankfully, I fell asleep at 5 p.m. for what was just going to be a 2-hour nap, and 8 hours later.
It's crazy how much brighter it's gotten since you first mentioned it.
Yeah, it's
We're gonna pan the bridge.
sunrise is one of those magical things. So here is the bridge in the mist, and this bridge is called the Bridge of Filial Non-Filial Piety. It's one of its nicknames, and that's because one of the historical legends about it is that this bridge was built because the king's mother, and by the way, king's mother is sort of what the position most women sought after throughout various parts of Korean history, because that was the real powerhouse with, no danger of being assassinated. So the king's mother, well, the king died, right? The crown prince takes over and his mother takes a lover, and lover is on this side of the city over here. Apparently lived in an estate on this side of the city. And of course the palace and main parts of the city are on this side of the creek. And so to be a good son to his mother, he built this bridge. But of course, the proper virtues of a widow throughout the Korean peninsula for most of Korean history is that you should be a chaste widow, faithful to your dead husband, of course. So therefore, he was being faithful and filial towards his mother, but unpious and unfilial towards his father. Hence, the bridge of filial, non-filial piety. Yeah.
Tell Susan she's got to look at the colors.
Yeah, you've got to look at the colors on this bridge. It is absolutely. She's
the bridge's size.
Yeah.
Tied with the bridge's size.
Oh.
The bridge's size is nice. Though.
Yeah.
Not wrong.
No, see, in daylight, this bridge is beautiful. At nighttime, it's breathtaking, which is why, again, I'm sorry, dear viewer, I did not give you a nighttime tour like I promised. But I guess you'll just have to come back for the nighttime tour. We actually come to Gyeongju fairly frequently. Anyway, so all of the masonry you see here, this was all based on archaeological finds from the river there, and or other river sites where they excavated bridge remnants. Oh, they're set up here for kind of performance. Well, not now anyway. Yeah, so, we can still walk up anyway. So just like cities used to close down and bridges closed down as part of the closure of the cities, this bridge also closes down in a sort of homage to historical accuracy. Yeah, I think they don't want people getting stupid in it. Although in Korea, that's less likely to be the case. But yeah, this is a pretty amazing piece of architecture, especially when you consider that every single beam was hand hewn. All these intricate patterns were hand painted. It's a pretty powerful statement to human skill and creativity. And the good thing is that in Korea, anyway, these sorts of hand-crafted structures are being rebuilt. And so there's actually a growth in demand. Skilled labor paid very well indeed. So that's hopefully a sign that there will be a new young generation of people who are interested in pursuing that sort of work as a career. Because goodness knows, young Koreans are not interested in agriculture at all. Wow, they even used. That's nice.
If it's a presentation thing, or if they're just doing it.
I think, well, there is probably some Sheila thing, probably some kind of royal Sheila ceremony.
Musicians here
Yeah,
that recreate the music. We've seen them.
they do. Yep. Okay, well, I guess we'll cross on the boring bridge.
Cross on the lower bridge.
Maybe. Oh, yeah, that's true. We can cross. Okay, so in Korea, one of the wonderful things they do is put stone footbridges across creeks and rivers that are not terribly deep. So you can actually cross at water level. Definitely not for anyone who needs mobility devices.
This, and the fact that all signs in Korea are also in English, pretty much.
Oh, yeah. So people always think that Korea must be a hard place for non-Korean speakers to navigate. It's not. Almost all signs, especially signs for historical sites and other tourist destinations, are in Korean and in English. I will tell you, though, that our experience is frequently there's more information in the Korean than there is in English.
It's like, it's 5 Pyongwon.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah, we can see that in Korean. So this is used by the Kings of Kings as their summer home. Ooh, I want to know that.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, for those who are just joining, welcome. We're taking a dawn walk of Gyeongju, thanks to my jet lag. There is a second walk scheduled at 11 a.m. my time, so that's 4 hours from now, roughly, wherever you happen to be, if you want to join in and see a less foggy version of the city. We're experiencing an Indian summer, so it is definitely staying warmer here later, which is why, unfortunately, there isn't much in the way of foliage. The leaves have just sort of given up, turned brown, and dropped. Ooh, this stage is new.
Oh, right. This
Yeah.
is a new stage.
Wow.
Look, you can go down and walk along these dangerous stones.
Do we want to do that? I don't think we want to do that. I think we're not going to walk down the dangerous stones. We'll go to the less dangerous stones.
You can see the bridge now.
Yeah, so you can see the footpath there, and that at nighttime, each, like every other of those stones is illuminated in a rainbow light or different colored lights. So it's, again, really quite lovely, especially when the water flows, because there's actually lights between the stones as well. So it's a really beautiful effect. Nighttime in Gyeongju is stunning. I'm sorry, dear viewer, I failed you. Just have to come back.
And in the middle, there's a great view of the bridge.
Yeah, so the best photo spot for this bridge is definitely in the middle of this creek, which is really flowing today. So you can probably hear the roar of the water. And as I said, this is not an accessible bridge. So if one needs a cane to walk or any kind of mobility device, this is not for those individuals. And the city, hands down, not the city, the bridge, hands down. Daytime, anytime. Especially now that we have dawn breaking right behind it. Yeah, wow, look at that sunrise. Yeah, that's a pretty magical sunrise. Yeah, maybe. This mic's pretty powerful. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely deserves a photo.
How badly are the lenses fogging up?
They don't seem to be.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I think mine are.
Trying to see if I can see fish in there.
Okay, onward. Across the bridge we go. So I think you can probably hear me over the rushing water. We are heading towards Gyeongju Mall, Gyeongju Village, which literally means Bridge Stream Village, so it's not the most original name. Anyway, this is a historic village that contains structures that are 500 and 600 years old in some cases, and was actually the sort of what was left after the Mongols burnt everything to the ground. They rebuilt here, and they eventually got leveled. I think it didn't survive the Korean War. This part survived the Korean War. So it's one of the few original historic Hanok villages left in Korea. So here we are. This is traditional historical Korean architectural style. So all homes are surrounded in walls, and that creates these really idyllic narrow lanes that are surrounded by these walls. It's a very different architectural style from Europe. And actually, it was really that touristy, and most of these homes were still lived in. But now, again, the older people who own them have passed on, and younger Koreans don't want to live in hanoks. They want to live in, modern apartments. So many of these have been turned into rentable Airbnb properties, and I plan on doing that at some point. There's this amazing one that sleeps 12 people, has like 4 buildings, and it's actually the one right behind us. So yeah, those gables you can see there, we can rent that. And if you book it in advance, you can actually get it for like $250 a night for a property that sleeps 12 people. And that one is 200 years old. Yeah, looking forward to doing that at some point. This is a cafe where we love to get tea. They do also have coffee. They've got a pretty good Italian coffee setup actually, but they actually have really good selection of high quality teas, and they serve the teas in teapots, which, most coffee places in Korea just give you bagged tea. This place.
Nice loose leaf.
Yeah, nice loose leaf tea, rosebud tea, all sorts of things. Oh yeah, it's not open of course, but yeah. Oh no, this is the bibimbap place, which is really good. So this village has village kitties that are taken care of sort of communally by everyone. So we may or may not encounter them out and about. This is the indomie ice cream shop, and indomie are these amazing chewy rice cakes. Let's see, you can't really see them. There's none. No, that's not indomie. Indomie are the chewy ones. Yeah. The indomie are these things. Yeah, the chewy rice cakes. This is another yakwa, another Korean fluffy rice cookie thing. Anyway, you come here and you get one of these sundaes, and they also actually make the indomie, the rice cakes here. And this is there's a kitty. There's a Tom kitty. Yeah, he's been fixed. You can tell because his ear's been clipped. he's yeah. This table under here the reason it's covered is because this is their indomie making station, and they actually take a giant mallet and beat the crap out of it to make it all chewy. But that's not actually how it was traditionally done. So you see these batons here, these bats, and those 2 wooden bats over there. That is traditionally how chewy rice cakes were made. You actually, giant mortar and pestle, but it's actually you're really truly beating it. But they actually let tourists come and take a whack at it, literally. So it's fun. The ice cream is pretty good. The indomie are not sweet on their own. Yeah, the people are super nice, and they love children and will give children all sorts of freebies. Let me tell you, if you want Korea to be as inexpensive as possible, bring children. Adorable children. The more adorable, the more freebies you get. It's a sad reality. This is a fine dining restaurant. Korean table d'hôte, so that's the course with everything in the dishes laid out really beautifully. You can rent hanbok here. You can rent both Sheila era style hanbok, but like costume Sheila in strange pastel colors, and you can also rent costume Joseon style hanbok. That's just very popular right now. The Sheila era hanbok is actually a newer addition to all of the rental places around here. We also eat here quite often. This is very good food. The woman who owns this place, we've chatted with her quite a bit. She lived in Canada for a lot of years, even though she is Korean, and she makes all of her own fermented condiments. kimchi, all kinds of kimchi, doenjang, the fermented soybean paste, gochujang, the fermented red pepper paste. So she makes all that on her farm. So the food here at this place is actually farm to table. It's very good. We like it. Yeah, public restrooms, of course. Now you can kind of tell where the older original parts of the village stop and the newer reconstructed parts end. This here is a place where they do fermenting on mass, sort of in mass quantity fermenting, even though that's nothing like we would imagine it to be. So you can buy gochujang here, you can buy doenjang here. You can see the fermenting pots over there. Those are doenjang and gochujang pots. You can hear the rooster over here in the restaurant. It's another kitty. Mouse. Oh, we can't get to the cute kitten. There is a super adorable calico kitten who lives in this or the other one. Maybe it's this one. Next one. So friendly, so sweet. Definitely not in need of rescuing, unfortunately.
Where are we going?
Go this way. More walking through the village.
We never walked up this place.
Yeah, that's true. So this is definitely the historic part here. These hanok complexes have been here for a while. And for those who don't know, hanok is a modern term that literally means Korean architecture, Korean buildings. So it's a term that has since been created to differentiate between Western style architecture and traditional Korean. Same thing with hanbok. Hanbok literally means Korean clothing. And has been a term that was coined actually at the end of the 19th century to differentiate between Korean fashions and Western fashions. But those are not historical terms. Historically, they just called these houses and clothes. It's, yeah. Yeah, it's funny how when cultures collide, suddenly new terminology is required. Oh, here we can actually see into the courtyard of
Here.
Oh yeah, there's a mean looking tree. Oof. Yeah. So we like to eat here. I like to bring, when I have friends and family visiting me, I like to bring them here so they can get a really traditional experience, because they actually have a whole floor seating section. So you can sit on the floor in traditional style, and each of the dining rooms, it's a private dining room, and the windows open up into, the back garden, which is one of these beautiful walls. One really gets the immersive experience. This village was yesterday packed, and on any nice weather day on the weekend is absolutely packed, because, as I said, there aren't many places like this left in Korea. Most of them burnt to the ground during the Korean War. So, yeah, this one didn't, but the rest of the city did. Therefore, not much left. And then, of course, what happened after the war is a lot of these buildings actually got torn down anyway, because people wanted so-called modern, better modern architecture. They wanted to live like Westerners, so they tore down these hanok in many, many places in favor of a brutish, sort of unappealing style of architecture, in my very humble opinion. So over here we have the Che House. This is that gatehouse you see up there is actually the entrance to an estate. They can barely see it. Well, we'll get closer. The Che family, which you all might mistakenly pronounce Choi, C-H-O-I, is not pronounced Choi, it's pronounced Che.
There's the C-H-O-E, which is still pronounced
Che. All of those variants, all Che. The Che family was for centuries the sort of head family of this community, and starting sort of the early Joseon dynasty on forward. And this house is actually called Richmond Che's house instead of, Che's house, but there it is. During the day, this is open, and you can just go in from 9:30 to 5 p.m. and see what it was like in Joseon to live in a non-royal palace and sort of just a, nobleman's estate. It's very interesting. Look this way.
That looks interesting back there.
Here is a bopju place. So bopju is like soju, but just a different composition of fermented distilled beverage, and they actually make the bopju here. You can bottles, and I'm a sucker for ceramic bottles. I need to avoid. I don't necessarily want them, but I want the bottle. And all these places, 10 years ago, these were all homes, right? And now they're all sort of become restaurants and cafes because, no one really wants to. A lot of, younger Koreans don't want to live in places like this anymore, or they didn't, but that seems to possibly be swinging the other way.
You're up to 4 again. Up to 3.
Yeah.
Why is it every time I say you're up to 3, drops?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a curse. Remember, everyone, if you have questions at any time, just let me know. We're now basically walking through the Joseon era of Gyeongju, when it was called Gyeongju, or at which point it was. A little bamboo stand. Korea is kind of like as far north as bamboo will actually grow in Asia, and there isn't very much of it because bamboo is really at its heart a tropical plant. It really likes warmth, and in Korea it gets super cold in the winter. The backside of these houses. Korea is very three-dimensional. There's a lot of topography, so if you want to look into someone's property like a stalker or a peeper, you just have to go one level up and then you can gaze down. This is not someone's home anymore, though it was. You can kind of get an idea of the multi-building structures that an estate contained. This is now a traditional theater complex. So they actually do traditional style theatrical performances, traditional dancing, traditional drumming, hence the stage, which is new actually. Of course, in Joseon, when they had festivals, they would often actually set up a stage, or at least a carpeted area, or a matted area, on which, so this way, there's a cafe that looks like this. We've actually never gone back there.
We never have.
We should go there at some point.
Yeah, we never come up
No,
to
we
this
don't.
particular section. Ooh, 5.
So we're heading now. Stop moving. Also, if you're just joined and you haven't already heard my plea, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I have lots of fascinating content, all sorts, long and short formats. I go lots of places and like to share those experiences. So here is a ceramic oven, actually. This was the communal ceramic oven, and until recently they were still using this. Actually, so you can actually see how this process works. You fire exactly. The fire is built in the back. And but first you put the ceramics in. Put ceramics in first. You layer them in. Someone actually used to crawl in there, poor bastard, and stack them all up, pretty close together actually. And then they build a fire in the back. You can see these tiles are not old. They're definitely still using this thing.
So they build the fire. Oh, they must have to build the fire first.
You remove all that and build the fire and then cover it all back up again. What did it do? Oh, sorry. The camera seems to have its own, so it keeps trying to turn to the right. Oh, look at that dawn, the dawn breaking over that gable. Oh, beautiful. So remember, viewers, I always admonish travelers worldwide to always remember to look up, because you never know what you're going to see or going to miss by keeping your eyes on the ground. And that's pretty amazing.
34 minutes in. When we get around the corner here,
To the hill graves.
we'll see some amazing stuff.
So we're heading now towards some of the great royal tombs of the Shilla dynasty. And these hill graves, these tumuli, are the size of pyramids. Big pyramids, not small pyramids in some cases. And they're literally scattered throughout the city. Sometimes they're clustered. Family members might have their tombs put to each other, and sometimes it doesn't seem that way. There's a little bit of mystery about the process of choosing a location for a tomb, because there are also tomb complexes scattered throughout the countryside here. Gyeongju is basically a big air museum. I really recommend people come here and rent a bike or bring a bike if they have one with them, because you really see quite a bit by bike. You know, it's good exercise too, but it's better than, certainly cheaper than paying for a car to drive you around. You'll also get much less car sick. Driving in Korea is a bit of an action movie, kind of at all times, and that includes buses, by the way. Riding the bus here, oh, here's the persimmons I was talking about. Riding a bus here is like riding the night bus in Harry Potter without the magic to protect you. So keep that in mind. So all of these hanok to the left here, brand new, just built, just opened. There's been just a massive hanok building campaign throughout Gyeongju, which is really fantastic. All right, so there's a tumulus, 2 tumuli over there, 2 of the bigger ones, but that's okay, because here we go. Your first proper tumulus, a very impressive example.
This one's a double.
Yeah, you can only see the one from this angle, but you're going to see this is a twofer. And it's a king and a queen buried together, they think. Yeah, they haven't excavated this one because, unfortunately, the process of excavation is destructive when it comes to the tomb, the hill itself. So they prefer not to do that to really nicely preserved examples like this one. There are plenty, thankfully, of very eroded or degraded tumuli, because what people forgot that they were tombs and would just dig into them and
I don't know if you can see
would just, you need to let me finish talking. People would just build into them, basically, especially if they needed dirt for something. They would actually excavate the dirt and stones from the tumulus to build their home. So there are plenty of perfectly degraded examples ripe for excavation. They don't need to, do anything to this beautiful, beautiful piece of human engineering. I guess.
Tried to show them the one where the house is literally built.
Yeah, there's a tumulus across the field where there's a house built into it, like a Saudi dugout. Look, didn't you read Little House on the Prairie or Little House in the Big Woods?
No.
Okay, well, your childhood was sad. Okay, yeah. So take a look at just the sun coming over, so beautiful. Oh. So the way they mow these things, you might notice how beautifully mowed it is. They actually mow them in the most low-tech mowing technique I've ever seen. They basically take a mower, they take 5 or 6 men, and they attach ropes to the mower, and they just sort of guide it around from the top to the bottom, just going around and around and around. It's scary. It's a scary process, but it's also a bit like watching an action adventure movie. So, if you can come on mowing day, I recommend it. It's fascinating to watch. I keep suggesting they just get some scenic sheep to keep the grass nice and short, but no one takes my advice. So. At nighttime, especially these large tumuli, are illuminated. You can see the boxes at the base, those are the lights. And so they're just beautifully, beautifully illuminated, and it sort of feels like the past looking back at you. One of the many things at which Korea is very adept is creating scenic lighting on all sorts of sites.
Do you want to go to the little museum that's over there?
No, let's go this way. Yeah. We're taking a morning walk. Oh, looks like I'm finally going to need my sunglasses in the morning dew.
Never been up early enough to.
No, yeah, I've never experienced dawn in Gyeongju, actually, not from a wakeful perspective.
Funny is how well that holds behind right there. Like, there's one literally right in the middle of the camera.
Yeah, this is... Apparently Gyeongju's worth waking up for. Who would have thought? And I like Venice in the morning is a particularly magic time. Well, actually, any Italian city in the morning is particularly magic because they also tend to be misty like this.
It's amazing how empty this place is right now.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yesterday you couldn't... This was... Imagine Disney World in the summer or during any school break, and that's what this place was like yesterday. Now, these fields are off limits. They are not accessible to people, or people shouldn't step on them anyway.
Sun's too bright.
Yeah. This massive green space here is actually not accessible to people. It's supposed to be off limits, and it is. I've actually never seen anyone out there. So, Koreans, except for the mowers, but no one else is allowed out there. The field across the street, which we'll see here in a moment, lots of people go and fly kites there because there are not any open flat spaces in Korea at all. And so this is one of the few places where one can easily fly a kite. The trees, though, suffer because, of course, the kites get wrapped up in the branches and people just leave them there. So unfortunately, there's all these cheap plastic kites kind of caught in the branches of the trees.
You want to show the second most beautiful Starbucks?
Second most beautiful Starbucks in the world, right here.
Starbucks.
Yeah, who would have thought? Well, we also saw a beautiful one in Leeds. Remember, it was in the Georgian era building? Yeah, there's a beautiful Starbucks in Leeds that is located in a Georgian era building, late Georgian, early Victorian building.
Starbucks isn't our thing, but they've been doing some good building places.
Or, well, rather, they've been occupying beautiful spaces. Yeah. In Daegu, they occupy a gorgeous hanok that was purpose-built. And it's got this gorgeous courtyard, and it has floor seating. Really lovely. Oh, guess.
Nobody.
So this is Monday morning. The piles of trash over there showing the weekend's work, or actually probably just yesterday's work.
It's not because Korea is trashy.
No, it's not because Korea is trashy. There's just that many people were here yesterday. This road and this parking lot was covered in cars, not moving cars, by the way, the road.
That's where they set their cans, essentially.
Oh, right. Yeah, so instead of having trash cans, they just put out, those are bags you have to pay for. Basically, you pay for your trash here by literally paying for the bag into which to put your trash. So if you actually live a more economical lifestyle and don't do lots of consumption with lots of packaging, you actually are rewarded because you don't pay as much for your trash disposal.
Are we going to try and walk across?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Tell us if it's too bright.
Yeah, we're going to be walking kind of into the sunlight, so just let us know if it's too bright.
It's closed right now, but over there is.
Yeah, there's a beautiful tomb park to our left. Oh, wait, but there's the parks that aren't open. I don't know, what do you think? Should we go to the open park? Because, just beyond this, it's just open, right? It's not even, there's no wall around it.
Oh, you mean over there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, towards where we're going in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. That way we're not walking into the sun.
Yeah, if you join us at 11 a.m., we'll actually go into this tomb park, and we're going to go into the Pleasure Palace, the Anapchi, or Tonggung East Palace, as it was called, the Pleasure Palace of the Shilla dynasty, which has been partially reconstructed. My hopes are for a full reconstruction. I mean, they've been spending all this money up in Seoul on Joseon era crap. Time for Shilla to get its fair share. The Shilla dynasty was actually a superior cultural entity all the way around, especially for women. In the Shilla dynasty, men and women were legally equal. There were many regnant queens. There were several regnant queens, and that was not an issue. And one of the best rulers of the Sheila era was Queen Sondok, and
Still make movies.
they still make K-dramas about her.
Like a new one just came out recently.
Yeah, it was a Buddhist, it converted to Buddhism in the 7th century. And, Buddhism was very much about egalitarian approaches in its origins. Of course, that, just like Christianity, that gets corrupted with time. But that's why so many of the architectural remnants of the Sheila dynasty here are Buddhist temples. Because under the Sheila rulers, the Buddhist rulers, they really went all out on the construction of these amazing complexes. So there was beautiful clothing. They and of course in the Sheila dynasty, ostentation was the name of the game. In the Joseon dynasty, it was much more about modesty. So this amazing structure you see here to your left is actually a bathroom. That's a public restroom. I just love Korea. And of course here, this is another of the sort of Hanok parts of the city that survived the war, the Korean War. This is now a cafe as well, Cafe Seoul. Good place to get really high quality organic soft serve, ice milk as it were. And 10 years ago when we came here for the first time, this place was nothing like you're about to see. All of the Hanok that were here were inhabited. There was only one bed and breakfast Hanok. Everything else was lived in. This park wasn't here. I think the architecture that they leveled here was not traditional. It was post-war. So, they've really been Korea's been working hard to create lovely public parks and green spaces for people to enjoy. This is a shrine. That needs some TLC.
Looks like it's getting there.
Yeah.
All sorts of places for it.
Yeah, over here we have a shrine. So you can tell it's a shrine because of the yellow walls and the traditional painting. So that yellow is a sign of it being some kind of shrine and not a palace, not an inhabited space, not a workspace. Because of course ancestral worship sort of has coexisted here more or less with every religious movement, with the exception of Christianity, where most of my Christian friends no longer participate in any sort of ancestral worship ceremonies. But the idea is that you enshrine your dead, and then you go and pray to them, you leave them offerings, and therefore they will work in the afterlife to make sure your life is good. So here we are at a village, part of Gyeongju, where they've been rebuilding Hanok at an alarming rate, in a positively alarming way. And many of them are 2 stories, which was not the case historically, as far as I understand. But I think I've seen up to a 6-story Hanok style building, actually.
In Seoul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over here we have zodiac horoscopes, and I see especially slightly drunk young Koreans coming here all the time in the evening and getting their daily zodiac, their daily horoscope. For 1,000 won, you can get your horoscope.
Here comes our Airbnb. Oh, I can show them inside the park.
Yeah, well, maybe you can. So here's a peek anyway for those who might not be joining us at 11 for our 11 a.m. walk when things are open. This is a tomb park, one of the many tomb parks. And it was, they charged very little, but they charged about like 2,000 won up until recently. But then they decided to just leave the park part free and open, but there's a tomb. And at our 11 a.m. walk, we will go into the tomb with you. You can actually go into a tomb that they excavated and then reconstructed specifically so that you can see a tomb the way no one in history has ever seen a tomb.
Yeah, I could see these places in the Seattle, Portland. I could see somebody in Portland absolutely building a Hanok to live in down there.
Oh yeah, so Hanok, the historical ones, I don't know whether these reflect that or not. The historical ones are the ultimate in eco-architecture because they are designed very specifically to maximize the conditions of any season in terms of HVAC. Oh, this tree. I love this tree.
She said she'll join for the theme park.
Yeah, so this little hillock. This is definitely a tumulus, and there's this beautiful, stunning tree growing straight out of it. And I swear that tree is harboring something. There is something inside that tree. There is definitely something inside that tree. The spirit of, well, that's not a king, but yeah. This is just beautiful. Korea is very big on flower plantations like this, and it's autumn, so of course it's mum season. Chrysanthemums, which also make a very tasty tea. Check out the roofscape there. Angry birds. More tumuli here.
Yeah, you can really see them now.
Yeah.
That we're at the low bridge, or low wall.
And all of these silent sentinels to centuries of history.
Well, this is where we stayed. Further down. But I thought we could in here to get tea. And there's the caveman thing.
Yep. Yeah, the weird, yes. So Korea, is rebuilding all these historic buildings, but then they're adding all sorts of kitschy modern touches to them because they haven't really glommed on to the idea of a historic space being historical, if that makes sense. It's not like Europe. So here to the left is another Hanok Airbnb, and we've stayed here. This one also has a pub, so that the courtyard becomes a pub at night. So it's a little bit ruckus. If you want a quiet night's sleep, you want to stay at the place we started our walk at. Oh, that's turtle, a sea turtle, no less. Okay, that is wow. Yeah, that's true. That's right. This
They took down their tarp. Must not be worried about rain anymore.
Well, after a couple of days ago, they definitely should be. Yeah, so we have stayed here. It's a nice definitely not as quiet as our little country. Here's your second kitty of the day. I guess the kitties are starting to wake up. When we came here for the first time 10 years ago, this restaurant to the left was one of the traditional Korean style restaurants. Now, of course, there's many more. And this entire village to the left here is a real tourist destination for domestic tourism mostly. It's mostly Koreans coming here. There are more Westerners than there used to be, but it's definitely highly visited, a highly coveted spot in Korea because, as I said, not many places like this left in Korea. I keep hoping they'll build more Hanok villages. Hanok is the way.
You just want to live in Hanok?
I do. I want to live in a beautiful big Hanok estate. I mean, big by Hanok standards, not big by American standards, obviously.
For all of our stuff, we need big by Americans.
No, shush.
You can see the entrance to the Flying Horse tomb.
Can they? I can't. So the tomb that we'll be entering during our 11 a.m. walk is called the Chonma-chon, which means the Heavenly Horse Tomb.
It's very unassuming.
It's, the hill, yeah. The Heavenly Horse is a motif of this era, basically a flying horse. But just like dragons don't have wings in Asia, neither do flying horses. They just have magic clouds around their ankles that tell you that they're flying horses. Same thing with dragons, by the way. And this tomb is called that because two of the items they found in it were, this is going to sound terrible, but hear me out, saddle mud flaps that are decorated in this stunning heavenly horse motif. So they call it the Heavenly Horse Tomb because at that time they didn't know who was actually entombed. And they're still kind of not certain, but they think they know.
Yeah.
So we'll inside that tomb. And one of the neat things about the inside of that tomb, some of you may have seen the videos I've done on the reproductions that they've made inside of the items, the grave goods that are inside the tomb. And you can actually watch the reproduction videos. Oh, look, it's the giant dice drinking game.
I just remember the one thing that you have to write your name with your butt.
Right, yeah. So if any of you see this dodecahedral dice up here? The giant one that's like human-sized? That's because that dice was found in the Pleasure Palace, where we'll also be going on our 11 a.m. walk. And the dice is covered in these Chinese characters, and each of those Chinese characters are apparently a set of drinking game instructions. So the idea is you roll the dice, and whatever the instructions tell you to do, you have to do it. And it's a drinking game. And I mean that in the sense of many of the instructions involve you drinking. So one of them is write your name with your butt. Another is drink while hopping up and down on one foot. Another is howl a poem at the moon, which I think, like, perforce you have to be intoxicated in order to successfully execute that one. Anyway, you can actually buy reproduction of those dice. So if you'd like to spice up your next dinner party and or historical event, the Gyeongju drinking dice game, highly recommended. It's the game not anyone has probably ever played before.
I think you can actually find a printable version where you fold the paper into it.
Oh, they've opened. I know we're not supposed to go in. Pretty certain it's for maintenance people. Well, yeah, it's definitely not 9 o'clock yet. Cafes are coming open, so maybe you can hear that music playing. Koreans seem to believe that if you blast annoying music at people, they will come to your shop. And I don't know about you, that's not my preference, but...
Do you remember where the bell is?
the bell is over there, I think. Yeah, the pavilion's over there. I mean, they all go at once. Oh, you want to go to the bell? So we're now heading to the bell pavilion, and I know that doesn't sound exciting, but hear me out. This bell is giant, and it's 1,200 years old. Well, the one here is a replica of the 1,200-year-old bell. The 1,200-year-old bell has been moved to the museum, but the last time the 1,200-year-old bell was rung was 2019. And then they decided that maybe it being so old, they shouldn't let it continue to be exposed to the elements.
But they did record it.
But they recorded the sound, so now you can actually hear it, this 1,200-year-old bell ringing. It's really impressive. But they have put an exact replica in the bell pavilion up here. And all Korean cities, all cities had these bells. All towns had a bell like this. And it was the bell that rang the curfew hours. It was the bell that rang ceremonial functions. It was the bell that rang the alarm. It was the internet of the first millennium. And as such, it was designed to be heard. And basically, if you look at Korean cities, and if the city has a Jongno district, the Jong is the bell, and that is basically the place where the bell was. Okay, I just cross. That is the place where the bell was. So Seoul has one, Daegu has one, Gyeongju has one. If you really look at a map, you'll find it, and that's sort of that harkens back to the era when all cities had these bells. Okay, so here is the bell pavilion. I always tell people that Korea is under extreme development in a positive way. They have so improved their infrastructure, their tourist destinations, their green spaces. And the difference in the 10 years when we came here for the first time and now is night and day. A lot of this infrastructure just wasn't here. These hanok are new, for instance. But here is the bell. And there's actually a sign there that says no ringing of the bell between 10 p.m. and 9 a.m. And to make that not happen, they've locked it up. But they still do come here and do ceremonies and ring this bell. And they just want you to know that CCTV cameras are watching, so behave.
It's amazing how much this can hide that hill. The hill is huge.
Yeah. So the styling on this bell is heavily first millennium, and you can tell there's a lot of Buddhist motifs. There's the lotus, there's the chrysanthemum. I think that might even be a bodhisattva there. Yeah. Because the Shilla dynasty was intensely Buddhist. What's interesting is, and I don't know if they can see, there's a pit, a clay pit, a ceramic pit beneath the bell that, of course, basically turns this entire platform into a giant amplifier. It's pretty crazy to think about it that way, huh? Yeah, this entire pavilion is basically, a speaker.
Bet you it feels amazing.
Yeah, to ring that giant bronze bell, and yeah, I bet it is.
They can't really see it, but there is enormous bell right there.
Well, we're going to go into that part because it's actually open, I think.
But I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, the tomb parks, people for centuries just forgot what these hills were. It's fascinating how a major break like the Mongols coming in and burning everything to the ground can trigger a sort of societal amnesia. On this street, there is a Luwak coffee cafe, or a Luwak cafe. For those who don't know what Luwak coffee is, that is the coffee that is made from coffee beans that have passed through the digestive tract of a civet, which is it's not really a cat, but it's a cat adjacent thing. And yeah, so poop coffee is a thing.
oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's Cafe Luwak. Yeah. Again, I apologize for any sniffles. I'm not sick. The mist is triggering nasal action. Ooh, it's a giant heavenly horse on the in the bricks. Oh no, it's not a heavenly horse. It's the statue with the rider. No, it's the rider.
Yeah, you can see a fallen mound right there too.
Or just deconstructed. Yeah. So what I love about this giant grave here are the beautiful trees growing out of it. Korea, because of its sad history with war in the 50s, does not have much left in the way of old growth trees. So trees like this are a rarity and sort of a national treasure, really. There's also something fascinating to me about life springing from death. Yeah.
And remind people to put questions in the comments.
Yeah, if you have any questions, just pop them in the live chat. I am happy to answer questions. If you have questions about traveling in Korea, I can answer them while we walk and talk. For those of you who might be watching this as a recording, if you put the questions in the comments under the video, I will absolutely respond to them.
There's the museum.
Here's the museum. So up here, amongst the many improvements since we first started traveling to Gyeongju 10 years ago, is another hill tomb that they excavated, and now they have partially reconstructed so that you can see the structure of this one as well. And the interior structure of this tomb is different than the Heavenly Horse tomb. So it's really fascinating to see how there were different styles of architectural engineering to support these massive tumuli.
This is the first one they excavated.
This was the first one they excavated. So this tomb madness all started in the 1920s during the colonial era. For those who don't know, Japan colonized Korea pretty harshly at a cultural level. And there were some children were playing in the dirt around here, and they found these beads, jade beads, it turned out. And a policeman, a colonial policeman who's Japanese, walked by one day on his rounds and saw the children playing with these beads. And he was savvy enough and educated enough to realize that those beads were not new, were very, very, very old, and meant there was something significant about what was left of this hill. There wasn't much left. Basically, what you see here, this lump, was what was left. And it was not this smooth. And so he actually contacted the Japanese Archaeological Society, or the department in charge of that, and triggered an excavation. And then they found the most amazing grave finds. They found a tomb with the most amazing golden regalia, so many grave goods. And that made everyone realize that these hills were not just, lumps of earth. They were natural formations, and they weren't just dirt. And that was the start, basically. Here's some pictures from the first excavations. You can definitely tell it was the 1920s, eh? Look at those. Oh, look at those boots. Look at those socks. Unfortunately, you'll see these signs are not in English. These signs are much older, so it sort of predates the time. But there you can see an example of the crowns that they find in these tombs that really made it set the Asian community on fire, basically.
Okay, an example of another double mound right there.
Yep, another shared. They say most likely a king and a queen, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a parent and child. That, since men basically enjoyed equal footing in Sheila, and probably the rate of infant mortality was not terribly lower than it is in America these days. Yeah, the beauty of the park. So in our 11 o'clock, one of these tombs, the Heavenly Horse tomb, not just these tombs. They're actually signs basically telling people not to, rob the graves. Yeah, and no climbing. Oh, the climbing. Oh, right, the climbing. The fine for climbing one of these bad boys, like $20,000. And I don't mean one, I mean 20,000. Don't do it. They are so serious about that, because people tromping up and down degrades the mound. So, although you can still see footsteps, and those could be from the mowers, if it is, it's kind of scary, because that means they slipped pretty badly. But, and remember, in Korea, Big Brother is watching. It's one of the things that keeps this place so safe. So, you will get caught. Don't think you won't. The facial recognition technology here is super, super accurate.
And look, the tiny mound.
Tiny mound. Yeah, this mound there, it was exactly bisected by a road. And so that road was put in when they didn't realize what it was they were destroying.
Should we go see what the sign says?
Yes.
It's like 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock. Yep.
I forgot what time.
8:30. We're so off with our sleep schedule that we fell asleep at 5 p.m. yesterday and basically slept until 5 a.m. today. So we're a little hungry, but unfortunately there are no early morning breakfast places of any type here. You have to wait till 8:30. Okay, so this says a machong, which is in the Chon Machong, is a stone chamber tomb with a horizontal entrance. So this was apparently excavated in the 20s during the Japanese colonial period, but it had been pillaged of its grave goods. However, they did find horse bones and some harness pieces. So it was named after that. Sorry, Machong does not. Machong is the name of this, because I was going to say Ma is horse and Chong is tomb. So this one is also called the horse tomb, but not the heavenly horse tomb, which is the one we're going to. It's called that because they found horse harness pieces, horse tack. They found horse tack is what they mean.
If this was just a horse grave.
It would be, that's right. They thought it was pillaged because all they found was horse bones and horse equipment, but really it was the king's favorite. And that's why it's so small. Thinky thoughts with the Contessa and her condottiero.
Somebody hears me saying that on there and they're like, wait a second. Oh shit, he might be right.
Ah, yes, citizen archaeology for the win.
I wonder what it says about this one.
So all around, of course, these tombs have sprung up completely modern establishments to cater, in many cases, to a massive tourist boom here in Gyeongju. I have increasingly heard French and German and Dutch being spoken around Gyeongju by people who don't look like they're from Korea. So yeah, the number of Western tourists has increased, but for the most part, most tourism in Korea is still domestic. Okay, so this little lump was apparently built somewhere around the mid-7th century, and it's also a stone chamber tomb, like the Chonmacheol, where we'll be going after in the 11 o'clock tour. So it was apparently, so this was excavated, and it actually had a 2-layer bier inside of it. So the biers, of course, is the thing on which the sarcophagus rests, and this one apparently had a double-layer one. Unfortunately, it had also been pillaged of its grave goods, and the mound itself was destroyed. But they think that because it was a 2-layer bier, that it was actually a husband and wife tomb originally, which is a nice thought, but you know, apparently they can't base that on much because all the grave goods were taken, which means probably, and the bones generally don't survive. So it's interesting that horse bones survived there because the soil around here tends to disintegrate bones, actually, which is, well,
that if they had dug that up first and hadn't found the gold, would they have done all the other excavations? At the time?
Yeah, it's true. It's funny how humans are motivated heavily by gold. would they, if they hadn't found all of those gold grave goods in that first tomb, would they have kept going? I say nay. It was basically that first one that made them start looking in all of the lumps. Oh, the grass is wet. Now the hem of my skirt is wet, and now I've got wet, cold hem around my ankles.
Do you want to sign off and head to it?
Yep. Okay, well, everyone, thank you for joining us on our dawn walk around Gyeongju. If you are awake and able, join us at, I guess, 3 hours from now for the walk part 2, where we go into some of these amazing places and show you different things, because then, of course, it will be full daylight. Okay, everyone, until then or until later, may your travels be creative and unexpected. Bye, everyone.
Kept hitting to stop.